What a match that was.
Yes, and perfect revenge for Sri Lanka. What a result this indeed has been. We all thought after Ramanullah Gurbaza's knock of 84 and Ibrahim Zadran's 40, 175, we felt that perhaps it could be difficult for Sri Lanka. But Sri Lanka have done themselves a world of good and have thrown the Super Fours wide open now, folks. We are saying that Afghanistan is probably the team to beat in the Asia Cup. Well, Sri Lanka have made a big statement and they have beaten Afghanistan by 4 wickets with 5 balls to spare.
And this is what the second big chase that they've had in recent times.
Yes,
So
they chased down 184 against Bangladesh and now they have chased 175 plus. Remember, folks, it was yet again Afghanistan not having a good day with the ball and in the field.
Yeah.
Remember, Dhanushka Gunatilaka was dropped 2 times. And Karim Jannat will not be feeling any better because after he dropped Gunatilaka, Sri Lanka just went berserk towards the end. Gunatilaka combined with Bhanuka Rajapaksa, 18 runs in 1 over that Naveenul Haq bowled.
Yeah.
Naveenul Haq, if I may say. So, Sri Lanka once again are showing that you can never count out their grit, their determination.
I mean, we've always said that, when it comes to a team like Afghanistan, we said, they have these standout players. You can argue that with Sri Lanka, the 2 players who we picked as standouts haven't really performed to that degree of consistency or have been the kind of match winners that, you'd be wanting them. But, I mean, they've performed so well as a team. And oftentimes, that's the key in cricket, isn't it? It's who can perform best as a team. It's not really that much of individual brilliance when it gets you this far. And Sri Lanka have done amazingly well as a team. When they've needed someone to step up, someone has done it.
Yep.
And that's just been
That
amazing
is the
to see.
thing. And again, Kusal Mendes gave them a great start. But I think they can be very happy with the fact that 3 of their players, Shamika Karunaratne, Bhanuka Rajapaksa, and now today Dhanushka Gunatilaka, all stepped in. Remember, Sri Lanka were in a very precarious position.
Yeah.
And they were also helped by the fact that Rashid Khan conceded 39 runs in 4 overs by taking only 1 wicket.
He had a bit of an off day for sure.
And remarkably, this is Rashid Khan's most expensive spell ever in T20Is in the UAE. That shows the impact that this guy has. We're all wondering, who could be the best T20I spinner at this point in time? Well, Rashid Khan certainly stakes claim to that. Today, 1 for 39 in 4 overs, the most expensive. And by the way, he could have had Dasun Shanaka, LBW, but the impact was outside of, it was given out. He was celebrating. He doesn't look back when he celebrates.
Yeah.
But a review was taken and Dasun Shanaka got a mighty reprieve even that. So Sri Lanka knew how to use the DRS when it mattered, and it mattered. If Sri Lanka rise up from these, then it's good for them. And also, World Hero of War, absolutely agree with you. I'm always been a big fan of Sri Lankan cricket for the flair, because they don't follow a particular template. They play according to the Sri Lankan style, which is aggressive and having a bit of fun.
Yeah.
That is why you have to say that Dex is saying you have to give it for Chris Silverwood for Sri Lanka's against infamous tactical messages. I have to figure out 2D, 2A, 2C. I mean, what does he indicate? I mean, I'm glad that Silverwood did not use the word 3D. It would have been a trolling for either Ambati Raidu or Vijay Shankar or whoever we
Or
felt.
both.
Or both. So luckily it doesn't use 3D, it uses 2D, 2C, 2A. What are the scripting messages? If someone can ask Chris Silverwood that, yes. But what a turnaround Silverwood has had. Remember, in the England team, he was absolutely not having a good time of it. Ashes 4-0, sacked in very, very acrimonious circumstances. Comes to Sri Lanka and what an impact he has. Beats Australia at home, wins a bilateral series after 30 years. And drawing a test series against Australia and Pakistan. So, Sri Lanka playing well. Do you think they have any chance of beating India or Pakistan?
Too early to say, but I mean, if they keep performing this way, I won't rule it out, honestly. I just wouldn't.
Let me just be very, very brutally honest, Ikpreet. I think they have a great chance of beating Pakistan because Pakistan can be volatile.
We know that.
But against India, I think, okay, they stand a decent chance there as well because remember, under Dravid's first tenure as the full-time coach, when there were 2 sides, remember, one side went to England and the other side
was, yes, a B team was touring Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. At that time, Sri Lanka had won a T20I series against India for the first time ever. And that perhaps might put them in a good stead heading into this clash, which is on September 6th, by the way. So India will face Pakistan tomorrow, then they face Sri Lanka on September 6th, and their final league game is on Super Fours game is on September 8th against
Correct.
the Afghans. So they can beat, but it will take a supreme effort. There are still some loose ends. Remember, the bowling is still not up to the mark.
Yeah, and in fact, it's ironically two of their star bowlers who are probably guilty as much as anyone else
Yep.
is.
Hasaranga once again struggled, but it was Tikshana who bowled really, really well. And India's batsmen might struggle a bit against Tikshana because even in the IPL, Tikshana did trouble the likes of Rohit. He did trouble the likes of, you may say, Virat to a certain extent. KL Rahul to a certain extent, provided he's fit. And India versus Afghanistan out, and Pak SL will play virtual semi-final. He was saying Pak New Zealand, but fault lines New Zealand does not come under Asia,
yeah.
unless you want to have some imperialistic ambitions. So it has been a very good display by Sri Lanka, but the bowling, especially in the power play, was a lot left to be desired. Even towards the end, there you also pointed out, Shane, that they did panic at certain instances while trying to go for the winning shot or trying to clear the infield.
I found it weird that they were panicking even after Bhanuka had been dismissed. It didn't really matter at that point because the run rate, the asking rate was below 6.
Yes.
I mean, it looked like, there were a couple of times when a better throws would have actually put them in a lot more trouble because they were taking some very risky singles that were not on by any stretch of the imagination. By no stretch of the imagination, they've been taking the singles.
Yes.
And there were times when the batsman gave up, but there was no connection with the stumps, and that was what saved them.
Remember, a better team might make them pay. India can make them pay. Pakistan can make them pay. And remember, these are the 4 best teams that are currently in Asia. That is why they are contesting the Super Fours. On the other hand, it could be India versus Pakistan Chapter 3 on September 11th.
Absolutely.
We don't know. But if Sri Lanka make it, it will be yet another success story because they really don't give up. And Hitesh, catches causes the match for our...
Yeah, you know that old saying, catches win matches. Apparently dropping them can make you lose matches.
Danushka Gunatilaka, remember. We all thought that when Ramanullah Gurbaz was caught at the boundary, look how expensive it proved to be for Sri Lanka. Here, Gunatilaka was dropped twice. And you didn't run out Bhanuka Rajapaksa earlier, and see what happened. Fielding is going to be the key in this Asia Cup because the bowling will struggle. Again, this was not a typical UAE wicket wherein, okay, the first 15 overs are really bad. After the next 5, it opens up and batting becomes easier. No, it was a true batting wicket from ball 1. Once you got your eye in, you could just go for your strokes.
But I think Ikpreet also points out something interesting. He's saying that if India bat first, do you think they can still fight? Because last year we had seen Australia won the World Cup by chasing in all matches. I think would be a bit of an understatement. But I think most of the bigger matches for sure. And UAE, almost all big teams are chasing well. I agree. That does happen a lot. And we were also pointing out that, winning the toss, if you are batting second, no target seems big enough at this point. Sri Lanka have proved it 2 days on the trot.
Yep. And again, remember, there has been only one team that has successfully defended a total in the Asia Cup as of now. It was Hong Kong versus Pakistan.
Correct.
Pakistan registered a 155-run win by bowling Hong Kong on for 38. But
Exactly.
you won't have a batting collapse of 38 every day in T20
Exactly.
race. So India, now it's time for India to bludgeon Pakistan bowlers left, right and centre. Dex, I don't think bludgeon. Rahul Dravid, even in the press conference, said that it is just another game and life will move on. But we cannot take Pakistan for granted because which Pakistan will turn up?
You never know.
And remember, catches win matches. Fakhar Zaman dropped Virat Kohli on 0 in the first game. How much did he make them pay? 35 runs. If he had taken that catch, Pandya and Jadeja might probably have been under even bigger pressure. Maybe the tables might have turned. So you have to take your catches. Otherwise, it'll really hurt you. Wow, Sri Lanka on the rise. Pradeep Shivalsan, what a chase. Impact innings all round. Pachum Nisanka, Kusal Mendes, Gunatilaka towards the end. Hasaranga and Rajapaksa. Though a couple of them could have finished it. Yeah.
But I think, in T20 also sometimes it's okay if you play, short cameos across the board.
Yep.
If you can get it there, then, you do get enough runs.
Himanshu Tripathi, how both teams batted well in the first 10 overs, need intent from a top three.
That's very interesting because even we were pointing out that, these wickets are a little bit more, traditionally on the slightly slower side, let's say. So, generally speaking, it does make the power play very,
Yep.
very important.
Very important.
How good a start you get determines how well you will actually carry on, because if you start quick, then you can maybe consolidate it at, but you would also, have your eye in and you could take some risks, like what, Surya was doing against Hong Kong. But if you're starting slow, then you're playing catch up throughout the game.
But Surya has said that you can play catch up on these conditions because if you get your eye in, you can score at a rate of 200
Exactly,
to 250.
exactly.
Like what happened with Virat. 30 to 35 balls, he struggled, he got his eye in, but towards the end, he was hitting sixes and pushed his
Strike rate up to the mid 130s.
135.
Yes.
But Surya, he's a different player altogether. And let me tell you one thing. It is not necessary that on these conditions, you have to go bang bang right from the beginning.
Exactly.
This Sharjah wicket was an exception to the rule. If you have to really go bang bang, you need a very true pitch. Even in the T20 World Cup that happened in the UAE, which match where you saw both teams go bang bang and succeed?
No.
Maybe to a certain extent, England versus New Zealand, that semi-final.
Yeah.
But even then, it took Daryl Mitchell's blitz at the end to ensure, and at the end,
At the end is the keyword, so it wasn't really, both teams
Australia,
going from ball
Pakistan
one.
at the end. Australia, New Zealand at the end.
Hmm.
Are India playing with two fast bowlers now that Avesh is down?
You know
with
what? I'm
fever?
very, very interested to see what they're going to do tomorrow. I don't know what kind of team they're going to come
Not
up
two
with.
pace bowlers. I mean, see, you got Bhuvi, Arshdeep, and Pandya.
Yeah, I think Pandya might have to take on a bit more load.
And he did bowl 4 overs on the trot against Pakistan, got 3 wickets. And so you will see Pandya have a more active role. Now, whether Akshar Patel plays in tomorrow or R. Ashwin or Ravi Bishnoi remains to be seen because Yajuvendra Chahal is your go-to spinner anyways. Deepak Huda, R. Ashwin, Ravi Bishnoi or Akshar Patel. Which of these 4 will make it out of your number 1, out of the 1 spot? And remember, Pant is back. So probably you will have a tinkering of the batting order. You may have to make 2 changes. I think India are making 2 changes in that 11 tomorrow. Maybe Ashwin / Huda / Akshar come in. DK out, Pant in. Unfortunate for DK, but what to do? For the team common. Remember, Dravid in that press conference. Somebody asked me about that press conference. He was very, very frank, forthright, and said, if some players don't make it, it is because of the team composition. Pradeep Srivalsan, yes. What's my take on it? It was very frank, and he openly has dismissed this notion. What is this first choice? What is this experimentation? If players get injured, I have to play another player. No. Opponents in certain conditions force us to play with players who have a different skill set. And that is the reason why I think this statement by Rahul Dravid is very, very crucial. You are not going to go with a settled 11 everywhere. And he made it very clear. Our focus is on tomorrow, September 4th. The Australia thing will be there at the back of our mind, but conditions in Australia will be totally different.
Correct.
So Pradeep Shivalsan, Dravid understands that yes, our focus now can't be too far ahead. Play for the game and play to win the Asia Cup, because he's also highlighted the importance of this tournament. Whatever weaknesses or whatever questions may be there about our team, that can get answered in a pressure situation like in the Asia Cup. Remember, the India-Pakistan match was very pressure-filled. It could have gone anyway.
Absolutely. Also, to take a couple of questions from top. So, you have Raj Dasgupta saying, Sri Lanka versus India final. I think he wants that, which would be a decent final, not going to lie. Ikpreet
Why
is
doesn't
asking,
he want Chapter 3 India versus Pakistan, man?
Ikpreet is saying, Afghanistan have any chances? Or is the Asia Cup over? Of course they have a chance. They win
They
the
have
next
a
2
chance.
matches. And then suddenly, things can be very even Stevens. And remember, the Super 4 is such a thing that net run rate is going to come into play. Unlike in the group stages where there was pretty much no scope for, of course, Super 4s, because there was no chance that, of those teams, everyone would lose 2. It's just not happening.
So remember, the top 2 of the Super 4 make it to the final. As
Correct.
simple as that. If the team is tied on points, net run rate comes into the equation. The team with less injuries will win the World
That's
Cup.
a
Aditya,
very, very clever.
very good. I mean, I don't disagree with that point. It is really, really important. I mean, Dravid pointed that out. It's not that only we are affected by injuries. There are certain teams who are missing key players. In the Zimbabwe ODI series, for example, Australia played with 90% of their core strength, with the only exception that Pat Cummins wasn't there.
True.
But that does not dim the significant thing that happened today. September 3 is a very, very memorable day if you're a cricket fan, because Zimbabwe, 39 years of their existence, have finally managed to beat Australia in Australia. That is more than the Asia Cup, more than any other cricket that is played today. That is the real... Oh man. So, Australia indeed is one of the best in the business, and Zimbabwe achieving that is a magnificent feat indeed. Zimbabwe showed true character. Yes, Piyush Nandre, absolutely.
I like
Mohammad Taqiyuddin saying, well, to be honest, Sri Lanka played better cricket. Other teams need to find out the code strategy being used by the Sri Lankan manager.
Yeah, honestly, even I haven't been able to decode it. But certain things, there's certain codes which just can't always be broken unless you actually kind of infiltrate. I'll give you an example. So it's a football example.
Yes.
But when Sergio Ramos was at Real Madrid, when he'd be marshalling the defense, there would be times that he would whistle to his midfielders in a certain way, and they would know how to control the game, whether to play slow, whether to go quicker. And no one actually managed to figure out those whistles, but he'd whistle a certain way and the tempo would change.
Wow.
So again, this is on-field thing. So again, you just knew, people, journalists knew that it was a thing. No one could figure out what it meant. Because again, that's a whistle. How do you decode a whistle? And same with stuff like 2A, 2B, it could mean anything. Only the people within there would know.
Okay, Saurav Goyal, thank you so much for showering the love.
Thanks, Saurav.
And it is because of you people that we want to do it every day with that same energy and with that same passion. Sri Lanka should not use these codes they're playing with.
They might actually know something, but for all you know, Chris Silver would change the codes. I mean, you don't know.
See, the Enigma code took some time to break in the World War, so that is why. Himanshu Tripathi, thank you so much, and your analysis is not diplomatic is key. I don't consider myself to be a diplomat. I want to call a spade, although I do get trolled for that as well. But that doesn't change my core principle. What about New Zealand versus Australia upcoming ODIs in Cairns?
That'll be fun.
That'll be fun.
Pradeep
But
also
again,
does point out something that, Rashid did have a bad day. We were talking about that. And yeah, compare that to the R spinners play, the gap is very... Yeah, actually, Yuzi might have been having a poor run in terms of not getting a wicket.
But he's been economical. Jadeja has been your key difference in this series. I mean, he did bowl economically.
He, to be fair, most of the time does.
And he's a gun fielder. I'm only going to miss Jadeja's contributions.
The fielding,
primarily for the fielding.
The fielding, absolutely.
I would give up his batting and bowling, no problem. But with the field, it's like the Jonty Rhodes impact. Jonty Rhodes, if he contributed with the bat, was a bonus. But in the field, you knew that he would save 15 to 20 runs.
Save 15 to 20 runs and probably get you a couple of wickets.
Those
Cash, his run-outs. That one iconic moment I always remember is that one where he dived into the
1992 World Cup, Pakistan versus South Africa
and
at
yes,
the Gabba.
Alfia, you're absolutely right. They're not looking to attack Chahal. That's why he's,
Well, Rajdas Gupta, you have to ask why Australia have this elitist kind of racism. Why Zimbabwe not playing in Sydney, Adelaide, Brisbane, but in Townsville? Well, even New Zealand are not playing there. They're playing in Cairns. Maybe you want to.
I think they're actually preserving the wickets right now because it's going to be World Cup season soon. I don't think and to be fair, to all due respect to the Zimbabwe team, not a lot of people will be paying to see tickets for them. But I don't think this has anything to do with that because, as we said, even New Zealand, and that's the ultimate trans-Tasmanian rivalry.
Remember when Zimbabwe went for the Test series in Sydney in 2003-04? Yes, that's a different era altogether. 19 years ago, they had toured Australia for a 2-test series. In Sydney in October, what was the attendance at a test match? I'm telling you. The Australians played their full team. What was the attendance at the Sydney cricket ground? 151.
Exactly.
Would you want to have a similar situation?
No, I don't think the Aussies would
I
want
think it
that.
doesn't make for good TV viewing.
Yeah, and to be fair, especially at a time when, by the way, COVID restrictions around the world are being lifted, you're no longer living in the time of empty stadium eras.
But what is wrong with the Townsville Stadium? It looked beautiful. beautiful.
No, honestly, I think YC, as we said, see, Townsville is hosting Zimbabwe, Cairns will be hosting New Zealand. That's
Yeah.
not down to anything else but them preserving their big stadiums right
Yeah.
now. They don't want, because again, remember, we've mentioned this a lot on the show, weather conditions are going to be a little different this
Yes.
time around. So I think they are, kind of actually just holding off on letting those grounds host cricket, let them
Absolutely.
breathe, keep the wickets in
Yeah.
pristine condition for the World
Yep.
Cup, which I understand.
Townsville gives me Powerpuff Girl vibes, man. Absolutely. Sid is more happy for Zimbabwe than Zimbabwe team. Absolutely, Aditya. I mean, whatever happened to Zimbabwe in that decade from 2004 to 2011 was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And cricket suffered because of the tyrannical rule of Robert Mugabe. If there was any sport that was impacted by Robert Mugabe's tyrannical rule, it was cricket.
And Zimbabwe, remind you, they may not be World Cup winners or anything, but they've always had a tendency of producing some very talented players.
The
So it's a
Flower
shame.
Brothers.
It's a shame that, the
Yes.
country has been reduced to this point, but thankfully they do seem to be reaching a point where slowly but surely they're reviving
And one
their
of our family
fortunes.
members asked, who have Zimbabwe qualified for the T20 World Cup?
Yes.
They have qualified for the T20 World Cup qualifiers that will be held 1 week prior to the main event.
Correct.
Whoever wins the top two in that, they will enter the main stage. So
Anyway, I think we can just
I
sum
think
up
we
the
can
match
sum
as
up the
well.
game.
Look, amazing
Afghanistan's
match.
dropped catches cost them really heavily. And the lack of intent that they showed towards the end, I think it made a difference of 15 to 20 runs. They should have very well made 195, 200, but it didn't happen. 2 drop catches, and that is how it is. Kareem Jannat and Ibrahim Zadran, unfortunately, they dropped the match.
And also remember now, with this, as a lot of people are mentioning, the Group 4 stage is suddenly wide open because a lot of people were expecting Afghanistan to win. Now, Sri Lanka ended up getting the win, and in fact, there are a lot of, permutations, combinations opening up. Manoj, thanks.
Yeah.
It is, in fact, a blue on the
Because
side.
he's wearing blue.
No, this does have like a bluish hue on the side. It does.
So he's wearing blue in anticipation for India versus Pakistan.
Just
Chapter
Chelsea were
2.
playing today, so.
And of course Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea.
So anyway, tomorrow is a big day, by the way. A lot of good footballing action. There's United versus Arsenal, Dutch Grand Prix, but the main event of them all, India versus Pakistan. So do stay tuned for that, of course.
Of course, and we'll be there.
Covering everything.
Every aspect of it. So press the like, comment, and share button. We are also there on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget to
of
check
course,
out.
to subscribe and tap the bell icon so that you
And
know when
don't
we're
forget
live.
to check out the Sports Talk English website. These
And the
guys
Sports
are
Today
hard
and
at
Tuck
work.
app. Yeah. Right?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Vanakkam.
Vanakkam.